Now, all right, this is one of those stories. I'm not sure you want to tell this one to the kids. Maybe when they're older, okay? But when we were young, the people would buy gifts for Christmas that today they don't buy. Okay, I'll give you an example. One of them, a lot of people bought boxing gloves. Boxing gloves were honestly, it was a pretty common gift. I'll tell you a little bit of how we used to use boxing gloves later on. But I was one. Very few people actually had BB guns. I think we had two friends that had BB guns, so they weren't that popular. But the one thing that was popular though too was a bow and arrow. I mean, almost everybody had a bow and arrow, and they didn't have a big 50-pound, 100-pound test or something like that. They had like 30-pound, pull or maybe somewhere in that range. I can't really remember the details, but a lot of kids had bow and arrows. So we got pretty good at shooting the bow and arrow. And I'll tell you a little story about there's this guy, Kenny Kulik. He lived in our neighborhood. He was older, but he was a really good. I mean, his father used to take him to competitions and everything else. He showed us how to really shoot with a bow and arrow. Anyway, we we would go out and play with a bow and arrow, right? Cowboys and Indians, right? We would cut the arrow tip off. The arrows usually came with what they called a bullet tip. It looked like a bullet. That's what it looked like. Okay, didn't have not that real sharp. Okay, we had those, but not that real sharp like you're going to shoot a deer or something like that. Just a bullet tip. Anyway, so we would then put on coats, like heavy coats, and the rule was shoot low, right? Shoot low with a bow and arrow, right? So we would play Cowboys and Indians, and the guys would shoot. We would shoot these arrows at one another, and if it hit you, you had a coat on, boom, it hit you. It was hard, but didn't hurt you. Even if it hit you in the leg, your leg stung a little more, but it didn't really hurt bad. And anyway, so we're playing one day, and Dennis fires a bow and arrow. It's Jimmy or something like that. Jimmy turns around, goes to shoot Dennis. Well, Dennis takes off for the garage in the house. Now, our garage door, normally the garage door goes like this. You push it, it goes up, right? And we didn't have that kind of garage door. We had a garage door that looked like this, it kind of opens up like that, like two doors, French doors or whatever you want to call them. Okay, so the door was partially open, so Dennis starts running for the garage. Well, Jimmy, you got to lead somebody if they're running, and we knew what we were doing with a bow and arrow. So Jimmy leads him, fires the bow or fires the arrow. Well, the door was on an angle. Dennis is trying to run in. The bow or the arrow hits the door. Okay, and the door had like laminate, a different wood, So I don't know. When it hit, it just ricocheted off. Funny. So he's aiming low, but when it hits the door, it bounces off and it goes high. And Dennis is running in. Boom! It hits Dennis right in the eye. Right in the eye. Man, he drops like boom, like a sack of potatoes. He's down and he's hurt. We go running over, and it's like, oh, he is really. It's like, don't tell mom, don't tell mom. I think mom's going to figure this one out, Holy crap, was that bad? I mean, Dennis's eye was red. I don't mean bloodshot. I mean red. And thank God he didn't lose it. He didn't lose his vision. He didn't even lose his vision didn't go down. But, I mean, whew, the pain of that thing. So now, next day, we go to school. Now, we go to Holy Angels. It's a small school. In my class, my graduating class, 23 kids, okay? But we only had 4 rooms and a basement. In the basement, they had like kindergarten, preschool, whatever you want to call it. And then on the first floor, they had first and second grade in one room, all right? And then third and fourth grade in another room. Then upstairs, we had fifth and sixth and seventh and eighth. Now, Jimmy and I are a year apart, so I'm in the 8th grade. Jimmy's in the 7th, so we're in the same room. And we're sitting there early in the morning, school starting. All of a sudden, principal comes in, and Sister Frances Jerome, and she is in tears. I mean, she's crying. And she starts to tell us a story about one of the kids that goes to school with us, right? Joe Hale. Well, he and his brothers were out shooting their bow and arrow, and they're in the woods, though. So they run out of arrows, right? They can't find the arrows or whatever it is. They decide to make an arrow. So they take a branch, they cut off the little sticks, and then they take a bullet head. You can buy those. They're hollow. They're bullet heads. You put the bullet head over the stick, right? Over the end of it. We put it over the end of the arrow if we cut it off or we didn't want to use it again. Put the bullet head on it. Anyway, they put the bullet head on it, and his brother shoots the thing. Now, Joe Hale's standing next to his brother. Next to him. Fires it over like this. Somehow or other, it had those little burrs, that they cut off the branch. One of them wasn't as cut off. Anyway, it hits the bow, and this is the story I got. It hits the bow, spins around like this, goes over, hits Joe in the eye. Now hit him right in the eye, punctures it. He loses not just his sight, he lost the eyeball. He lost the whole thing. So she's telling a story. She's in tears. Jimmy and I are sitting there. I look over. This is gonna be bad. This is gonna be bad. We're like sweating. So now we hear her. She goes out, talks to us first. Goes across the hall. Tells everybody, because she's saying, you kids, you don't know. You just da-da-da, it's dangerous. The whole thing, So they get the lecture. Now, Dennis is in the 4th grade. He's right below us. We're sitting there. It reminds me of literally that Christmas movie where the kid gets stuck to the pole. Gets his tongue stuck to the pole, and when everybody sees the police and stuff like that coming, all the kids in the class run to the window and look out the window. But the guys who were involved, they just sit right at their desk, man. They don't run to the window. Jimmy and I are like, oh, this is going to be bad. So we hear, she goes downstairs, and then she sees Dennis. And we hear this blood-curdling scream, I'm telling you. It really was. It was like, oh, no. So, of course, and Dennis, she goes, what happened? Because his eyes all bandaged up and stuff, right? I mean, he's not sitting there. He went to the doctors, and he is all bandaged up. His eyes all bandaged up. So he couldn't miss him, right? And then when Dennis would get nervous, okay, Dennis stuttered a little bit anyway, okay, a little bit. But when he got nervous, man, he would be stuttering something terrible. So I could just picture Dennis in there when she goes, what happened to you? He's trying to explain it. And of course, he don't want to throw us under the bus, but he's got to throw us under the bus. Oh, geez, she comes. I can hear her coming up the stairs, man. Bam, into the room. Master Duffy, out in the hall. Oh, jeez. I mean, we got reaped up and down. Jeez. But the whole thing was, honestly, the anxiety in your stomach sitting there the whole time going, oh, man, this is going to be bad. When she sees Dennis, this is going to be bad. And it was bad. And I would give him my eye teeth, though, to see Dennis when he was trying to explain what happened. Anyhow, I know I'm laughing today, but poor Joe Hale, holy crap, he lost his eye. And I'd like to say that cured us of the bow and arrow. But, well, we didn't shoot at one another after that. But we still used the bow and arrows for a long time after that. Anyway, that's that's a story. If Uncle Jim was here, man, he probably had bigger knots in his stomach than I did, waiting for Sister Frances Jerome come back up there. And anyway, that's that story. More to come. Bow and arrows get into the play again. Okay. Let's see that.